To blame.
There's an animal stronger than you can imagine.
About this hunter.
Some are born and some are dying.
Once you're on his list, there's only one way off.
Honor.
For a long time, conversations surrounding Kraven the Hunter have revolved around the idea of bringing one of the most intense and psychologically complex characters from the world of comic-inspired stories into a full cinematic experience. Fans have always seen Kraven as more than just another antagonist. He represents obsession, discipline, and the raw power of a man who built himself into a predator capable of challenging even the strongest heroes. That anticipation gradually transformed into excitement as talk began suggesting that a movie centered around him would explore not only his strength but the emotional turmoil and twisted philosophy that shaped him. People imagined a film that doesn't just show Kraven hunting others, but reveals what hunts him internally, his regrets, his need to prove himself, and the burden of the legacy he carries from his family. These early conversations formed the foundation of the hype, giving fans the sense that this story would dive deeper than typical villain origin films. Rumors began shaping the idea that the movie would focus heavily on Kraven's upbringing. Harsh childhood molded by extreme training, a strict family code, and a constant push to reach levels of mastery that most would consider impossible. Instead of simply being born powerful, he would be shown as someone who suffered, learned, and endured until he became a predator feared across continents. Imagined development notes suggested that the film would present Kraven as a man torn between the human world and the wild world, a figure whose philosophies were carved from survival rather than moral instruction. These updates sparked excitement because they hinted at a grounded approach, showing his transformation from a determined hunter into a near-mythical figure whose discipline borders on obsession. The deeper emotional layers suggested that the movie might reveal how isolation and ambition shaped every choice he made. Many discussions created the idea that the movie would introduce Kraven not as a traditional villain, but as a complicated protagonist whose goals place him in morally gray territory. He is not driven by the desire to control or destroy the world, but by something intensely personal, his unending quest to be the greatest hunter in existence. The story people envisioned revolved around his belief that true purpose in life can only be found by confronting fear, dominance, and the natural order. This perspective makes Kraven both admirable and terrifying because he lives by a code that rejects weakness in all its forms. Rumored story elements teased that his journey in the film would involve pursuing a target unlike any he has hunted before, a challenge that pushes him to face not only external dangers but the limits of his own humanity. This direction gave many fans hoped that the movie would offer a character study wrapped in intense action sequences. Imaginary production updates suggested that the movie would dive deep into Kraven's psychology, exploring how he sees the world through a hunter's lens, calculating, observing, predicting the behavior of others long before they act. One of the most intriguing ideas was that the film would sometimes show scenes from Kraven's perspective, blending human instinct with animal-like focus, allowing the audience to experience what he sees and feels during a hunt. These stylistic choices would help make the film stand out, portraying Kraven's mind as a complex mix of discipline, intuition, and emotional struggle. Rather than simply portraying him as a brute force, these details created a more layered depiction of a man shaped by trauma, honor, and an unshakable belief that destiny must be earned rather than given. Talk also spread about the possibility of the movie revealing Kraven's complicated relationship with his family, especially the overwhelming pressure placed upon him by a father who believed in absolute strength. Early story speculation imagined scenes showing Kraven being pushed to the brink, training under brutal conditions, competing against nature itself, and constantly being reminded that failure is unacceptable. This created the sense that Kraven's motivations in the movie would be tied to a longing for approval, revenge, or closure with his past. Fans believed this emotional foundation would make the story far more compelling, giving depth to the fierce warrior known for his legendary hunts. Instead of just focusing on his abilities, the movie would showcase how emotional pain can transform a man into Something extraordinary yet dangerously unstable. Another heavily discussed aspect of the imagined storyline was the importance of Kraven's philosophy about balance between man and nature. In many rumored drafts, Kraven sees himself not as a villain but as a necessary force, someone who protects the natural order by eliminating threats that disrupt it. This belief system positions him in conflict with modern society, which he views as disconnected from primal truths. The film was thought to explore this tension, portraying cities, technology, and politics as obstacles that challenge Kraven's instincts. His journey becomes not just a fight against enemies, but a struggle against a world changing faster than he can accept. These themes would make the film resonate beyond action, offering commentary on identity, tradition, and the modern world's relationship with nature. Speculation also suggested that the movie would introduce a major antagonist who embodies everything. Kraven despises someone who manipulates, corrupts, and destroys without understanding the balance Kraven values. This character was imagined as a rival hunter or a powerful figure exploiting nature for personal gain, pushing Kraven to unleash his full fury. Their conflict would be portrayed not simply as a physical battle, but as a clash of ideologies. 1. Man driven by a code of honor, the other by greed or ambition. This dynamic was seen as a way to showcase Kraven's strength, while also revealing the internal conflict that defines him. Even when he fights, he wages war against his own darker impulses, trying not to become the very monster he hunts. Imagined updates about the casting brought excitement as fans envisioned actors capable of portraying both the physical intensity and emotional turmoil needed for the role. The character of Kraven demands someone who can embody ferocity while also conveying the vulnerability beneath the hunter's stoic exterior. Speculation hinted at powerful performances that would highlight Kraven's duality, his cold, calculated presence as a hunter and his emotional struggle as a man. Discussions also suggested that the supporting cast would include characters with overlapping histories, alliances, and rivalries tied to Kraven's past. These individuals would help expand his world, introducing hunters, mercenaries, and figures from his earlier life who shaped his identity. By surrounding Kraven with characters who challenge or reflect parts of his personality, the movie could delve deeper into his motivations. Much of the excitement centered around the imagined action sequences, rumored to be some of the most intense and visually striking ever created for a character like Kraven. Fans pictured scenes of high-speed chases through forests, brutal hand-to-hand combat, and elaborate hunts crafted with precision. The movie was expected to emphasize Kraven's tactical mind, allowing viewers to see how he studies terrain, calculates movement, and turns the environment into a weapon. Instead of relying solely on special effects, many believed the action would highlight realism mixed with heightened instinct, showing Kraven using traps, camouflage, and strategy that reflect his mastery over the hunt. These sequences would not only deliver spectacle but also demonstrate his intelligence and experience as a warrior who fights with purpose. Speculation also leaned toward the idea that the film would build up a strong emotional arc centered around Kraven's struggle to control the beast within himself. The imagined story teased moments where Kraven questions whether he is becoming too consumed by the hunt, losing pieces of his humanity along the way. These internal conflicts would play out visually through scenes of solitude, flashbacks, and symbolic encounters with nature. Fans expected the film to portray Kraven not just as a hunter of external prey, but as someone battling the shadows of his own past. This emotional weight was seen as the heart of the movie, the driving force that makes his journey more meaningful than a simple story of pursuit and confrontation. The imagined world-building of the movie was another element that sparked discussion, with fans expecting a setting that blends gritty realism with heightened wilderness imagery. Cities would be depicted as concrete jungles where Kraven feels confined, while forests, mountains, and remote landscapes would serve as his true territory. This contrast between environments would symbolize the internal divide within Kraven, torn between civilization and the wild. The film was said to explore different cultures, legends, and rituals tied to hunters across the world, giving Kraven's story an epic and global feel. These elements helped build the idea that the movie would not just be an origin story, but an expansive look into the hunter's legacy. As fictional updates continued circulating, the idea of a dramatic turning point in the film became a major talking point. This moment would force Kraven to confront the limits of his strength, the fragility of his beliefs, and the consequences of his obsession. The imagined climax was said to involve a brutal and emotionally charged battle that pushes Kraven to redefine what it means to be the greatest hunter.